When you feel overwhelmed, you're not productive, you're not going to do anything, you're not going to achieve anything. Remember, you're important, you are important. Be kind to yourself. You need your best version of you, and you can't pour into other people when you're feeling overwhelmed. The laundry can wait, the washing up can wait, the project can wait. Focus on yourself. You know what you need to do to fill your cup. Do that. You don't have to stay feeling overwhelmed. So today is a little bit of a different podcast. We're being up close and personal, being vulnerable in this episode, and we're talking about overwhelm. And as I say the word, I just think overwhelm. I have spent, transparent moment, I've spent this last week feeling extremely overwhelmed. And that's me thinking of a lot of things, trying to make things work, balance, prioritize. The kids are back to school, getting in the swing of a new habit, a new routine. It's fall now, it's getting darker at night, and just trying to balance and juggle all of these things. And I'll find myself at certain points feeling, and my to-do list is ever growing. And the more my to-do list grows, the more overwhelmed I feel. And the more overwhelmed I feel, the less I do. The less I do, the more frustrated I get that I should be doing more because my to-do list isn't going down. And then the more overwhelmed I feel, I want to eat and I want to avoid doing things. I just want to lay down. And not only is the feeling of overwhelm in your mind, it actually, you can feel overwhelmed in your body. I felt the physical effects of the overwhelm on my shoulders, like feeling really tense and just feeling really sleepy. So I thought, let me do an episode to talk about it, because sometimes we try to glamorize our lives and think everything's perfect. You look at social media, perfection, everyone posting their highlights. In fact, I was posting some highlights, some holiday highlights on my Instagram. If you aren't on my Instagram, you need to be on my Instagram. It's really cool. Rodna and Tabani, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. But there's this notion or idea that everything has to be perfect. And even on this podcast, we talk about purpose, passion, and profit. And we assume that life is just linear. You're just going to be this successful, profitable, epic businesswoman. But actually, in the day-to-day lives, it can be really easy to feel overwhelmed. Now, as I was getting ready to, and actually, disclaimer, it's currently 20 minutes past 2 in the afternoon on a random Saturday. And I got out of bed 30 minutes ago. And now I have been in bed since yesterday at 9 p.m. And I can't remember the last time I've done this, but I felt exhausted, absolutely knackered. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And this morning I woke up and I had this big to-do list to do. And I was like, no, I need a minute. I need a minute. I woke up, my husband took the kids downstairs, and I've just been in bed and just really sitting still with myself and just really processing and thinking. And I'm so grateful for that time, because I would have just pushed through, feeling tired, feeling exhausted, and just wanting to complete and check off that to-do list. But actually, we have to be kind to ourselves. And if you get nothing else in this video, be kind to yourself. You need your best version of you, and you can't pour into other people when you're feeling overwhelmed. You can't pour into other people when you're feeling stressed out, feeling anxious. So actually, pause, take a minute, and breathe. So I googled the definition of overwhelm, because I actually wanted like the proper definition. And I came across two definitions that I want to read for you. And the first one is through Talkspace. I think that's a mental health website. And it says, being emotionally overwhelmed means to be completely submerged by your thoughts and emotions about all of life's current problems, to the point where you lack productivity and feel frozen and paralyzed. The definition is, when overwhelmed, a person is flooded by thoughts, emotions, and the physical sensations often related to a specific problem that can be difficult for them. Overwhelm not only deals with your emotional state, overwhelm deals also with your spiritual state and your physical state. You can feel, I felt my body froze yesterday, because I just felt, oh, there is so much in my mind. And what do you do with that? What do you do when you're overwhelmed? What do you do? And I wanted to share some of the things that help me when I'm feeling overwhelmed or when I'm overwhelmed. And actually, I'm interested to hear from you guys. What are the things that you do when you're overwhelmed? You don't have to stay in a state of overwhelmed, even though there are things to do, even though the kids need this and the kids need that, they need a uniform, their uniform needs to be ironed, you're trying to achieve your goals. There's just so much that can be happening, but it's not everything that you need to do right now. And that's one thing that I've fallen into this week, having a long to-do list and feeling like I need to do it right now. So for example, yesterday I was editing a video and I'm looking at my to-do list, and the first mistake, actually, let's talk about the mistakes. The first mistake I made is I didn't have a list for the day. I tend to have a list of everything that I want to achieve in the day, and that helps me. Seeing a physical list really helps me look at it, prioritize, and organize, and mentally prepare. And so yesterday I woke up and then I sat down and I just started working with no plan, nothing written down, recipe for disaster. If you always things stay in your mind, things are always in your head, and you never write it down, it can get so, like, your brain is like a computer. It gets overwhelmed if it's constantly trying to remember certain tabs, certain things that you need to do. And that's why writing down is really important, but we'll talk about that later. So I didn't have a plan, I didn't have a list. So I found myself editing a video, and then 5 minutes later, I realized that I need to do something else. So now I'm filling in another form, and then I realized actually I need to do something else. So now I'm on another tab, and then I'm on another tab, and I'm on Canva, and then I'm like, remembered I need to pay a bill. So now I find myself like trying to pay this bill. I've done 5 things in a space of 15 minutes when actually I just needed to do one thing. And that can be really overwhelming because I'm like, oh my gosh, my head is frazzled. What am I doing? Where am I going? What am I supposed to achieve? And when you feel overwhelmed, you're not productive. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to achieve anything. So that was the first mistake I made. And then the second thing I made is actually just forcing myself at the point in which I realized I need to take a break now. Let me go stretch my legs, go for a walk, or let me do something that's away from this my office upstairs. I just forced myself to continue working, and my mind was done. My mind was finished. I couldn't possibly do anything more, but I'm trying to force myself. Like, how many times do you force yourself to do something? Let me just finish this. I need to finish the laundry. I need to finish my work. I need to complete this project. But actually, a break will do you wonders. And then eventually I ended up taking a walk, and I walked for 2 hours because I just needed the space. I needed to breathe. I needed fresh air and clarity. But sometimes I know that fresh air is good for me, and I know that walking is good for me, but I will prioritize getting results and doing things instead of taking a break and actually just go for a walk or do whatever you enjoy doing. And when I came back from that 2 hour walk, I felt so refreshed, so good. Now imagine if I hadn't have done that. The third mistake I made was not writing. Again, it goes back to not writing things down. I journal. I'm one person that likes to reflect. And I knew that there were a lot of things that were bothering me. And one thing that I do to help me overcome that is by journaling. I journal quite a lot, and it helps me try figure out what's going on in my head. And a lot of people call it brain dumping. I brain dump. Okay, what's going on? What's actually bothering me? Because when it's in my head, it's just it's everywhere. But when I can begin to articulate and sit down, and I usually play some sort of instrumental or worship music, and I begin to write, put my headphones in, and I write, okay, this is bothering. What is on my mind? That's what I do. What's on my mind? And then I begin to write and write and write and write and write and write. And I can fill 3, 4, 5 pages easily by just writing what's going on in my mind. But actually, when I then look on the piece of paper and I see, oh, okay, so this is what's going on. This is what's bothering me, or this area's on my mind. Okay, what am I going to do about it? And it just helps me be calmer and a lot more collected and organize my thoughts. It's the equivalent of putting all the files on your desktop, all the documents on your desktop into files and organizing them. Okay, so this goes here. I'm thinking about paying my children's drum lesson bill. Okay, that goes into this folder. I'm thinking about going to the gym and my health and my fitness. Okay, that goes into the fitness folder. And by then I can sort things out and begin to prioritize. I didn't do that. And the thing is, I knew that I needed to do that, but I didn't want to do that. I was like, no, I'm just going to block that area out. And the fourth mistake I made was distracting myself. With social media, how many times do you feel overwhelmed and you just feel like, oh, there's so much going on, and then you're like scrolling on TikTok, or you're scrolling on Instagram, or you're scrolling, whatever your thing is, you're doing that. Some people, for it's eating. You just want to eat and sit down and lay down and do nothing and not think about it. Or chocolate. Oh my gosh, chocolate is mine. I love chocolate. I'll sit there and I actually said, I need chocolate. And the moment I said I need chocolate, I realized chocolate is a comfort food, and we just want to like snack and feel comforted because there's a lot of things and you want to block that out instead of just dealing directly with the thing that's bothering us. So those are the four mistakes I made yesterday. It wasn't even just yesterday, because I was overwhelmed, feeling very stressed out, but didn't want to deal with the stuff. The first thing, so if you're watching me and you think, wow, actually, like I've been doing a lot of this, the first thing I'm going to say, the first bit of advice or encouragement that I'm going to say is, you are one person. You are one person, okay? You can't do everything. Don't expect to do everything. Don't expect to achieve everything all in one go. You need to prioritize your mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical health. That's a lot. But you need to realize that you are one person. Have some grace on yourself, love on yourself, and show yourself some grace, some mercy. Otherwise, you will burn out, and you're going to be no use to anybody burning out. So remember, you're important. You are important. The laundry can wait. The washing up can wait. The project can wait. Focus on yourself. Are you good? If you are not good, what do you need to do in order to get you good? It could be having an evening to yourself. This morning, I spent the morning and part of the afternoon by myself with no kids, no washing, no laundry, no projects, no editing, no work, just me, and just trying to refill my cup in the things and doing the things that I enjoy doing. And I feel so much better for it. And I'm so grateful that I did do that instead of just trying to push through and check off that to-do list and be more productive and just do. And if you're someone like me, who I really struggle sitting down. I can spend the whole day working or doing. And when it comes to setting, I itch. Like I'm like itchy. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like sitting down, relaxing, doing nothing, or sitting down watching TV. I struggle with it because I have the mindset that I'm like, that's like, I'm sitting down, but actually I could be doing this, or I could be doing this, or I could be working, I could be doing the laundry, I could be doing so many other things than sitting down. So you know what you need to do to fill your cup. Do that. Take a pause, take a minute, reflect, and pause. The second thing that I think would be really useful for you to do is get a piece of paper. This could be a lined paper. This could be non-lined paper. Just sit down, take a piece of paper, put some music on the background or not, whatever you fancy, and get a pen and actually just write down what's on your mind. No matter how small it is, no matter how big it is, just write down, spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it is, write it down. It could be bullet point format. It could be just like paragraphs. Just write and see what's going on in your mind. See what's going on. What are you thinking about? What's causing you to feel overwhelmed? What's causing you to be overwhelmed? And have it on a piece of paper and look at it. Okay, so this is what's going on in your mind. This is the stuff that your mind is having to carry and think over time to process because it's not written down. And then third, once you've written that down, what are you going to do about it? Realize you've got 24 hours in a day. Probably 6 to 8 hours of those are you're sleeping. Okay, what can you do today? Looking at that list of what's bothering you, what can you do today? What can you do right now? Pick three things. Pick three things in that list. Pick one thing. You can start by one. Okay, I'm going to focus on this one thing. Or I'm going to focus on these three things today. Everything else can wait. It doesn't matter what it is. It can wait. Pick the three most important things on that list. It could be, I need to go do the shopping, or I need to finish that project for work. I need to take my kids to the park. Whatever it is, prioritize those three things. Those are the three things that you're doing today. And if three is overwhelming for you, pick one. That's the one thing that I'm going to focus on today, and put everything aside. Mentally, put it aside and just focus on that one thing. Because when you're constantly thinking about this and then this, and I need to do this and I need to do this, and you're mind hopping from one thing to another, you're not going to get anything done, and it's not helping anybody. So realize you need to focus. have one thing, two things, three things, absolutely max, that you're focusing on in that day. And focus on those things. And the other things will happen at another day, another time, and that's okay. Your house doesn't always have to be sparkling clean all the time. You don't always have to be in the gym 7 times a week. Some things have to give. And if you're focusing your attention on your health for a season, it might be that other things are going to not be as important, or you might not give everything your 100% undivided attention. Your family might be having 100% of your attention at the time. So that might mean that your fitness might not have 100%, it might have 60%, it might have 30%. And that's okay. Have a few things that you're focusing on that are important to you in that time and in that season, because seasons change and times change. We're currently getting into autumn, my absolute favorite season, and seasons are changing physically, but actually that means seasons are changing in my house as well. My kids are back to school, so that means that the routine is changing. Their after school activities are changing, so that means that routine is changing. My own routine is changing. It's getting darker in the evening. That means that we can't be out in the evening as much. So things are changing. Prioritize what is important to me in this season and what am I going to do about it. If it's not important in this season and in this time, park it, put it on the shelf. That's okay. This is going on the shelf for the next season. One thing I've done in the last couple of days is I've spent the time like decluttering my wardrobe and my children's wardrobe, like removing all the summer stuff and removing all the stuff that they don't fit anymore, because the season and the time has changed. They're older, they're getting bigger. So I removed all the summer clothes that we've spent the last summer living our best lives, and actually like I've made space, I've decluttered, and their wardrobes look so much better because everything that's in there is needed right now in this season. They have their autumn winter clothes, they have their winter pajamas, everything that they're going to need for the next 4 months they have in their wardrobe. They don't need short summer dresses or whatever, because that's not the season for it. And that's the same for you and me. In this season, what do you need? What are your goals? What are you focusing on? And just focus on that. Forget the other things. Like literally have tunnel vision on those things. The other things will come, the other things will happen. And that's okay. And then the last thing I'll say, which is really important, is move your body in any way, shape, or form you can. When you're feeling overwhelmed, take a pause, take a break, and move your body. Go for a walk. Stick your head outside if you have to. Like, just open the door and just breathe some fresh air. Do something that will get you moving. It's easy, especially in the season of autumn, to just be sitting down all day. Like, society really has us pretty much wanting to sit down all the time, all day. And that could be you spend your whole day sitting at work, and then you come home and then you sit down and you have dinner, and then you sit down on the sofa and then you go to bed. But actually just really prioritizing movement. Go for a walk, go for a jog, go to the gym, do some stretches. On YouTube, there are so many, like there's so much out there. Put something on YouTube and stretch and move your body. You will feel better for it. Because what will happen is when you're feeling overwhelmed, you'll feel it in your body. Your body will feel tense. You will quite literally feel the effects of being overwhelmed in your body. And if you're like me, I carry that tension on my shoulders. So I will find myself doing this more, like stretching out my arms, because there is quite literally tension. So I'm intentional in going out for walks and exercising, because that will help my body. That helps remove that tension from my body, and it helps me feel better. You don't have to stay feeling overwhelmed. There are things that you can do that will help you feel less overwhelmed. And that was the purpose of this podcast and this episode, is to help you feeling lighter, help you feeling like you can be and stay in control of your day-to-day tasks and what you need to do in life. It's very easy when you feel overwhelmed to just sit there and do nothing and procrastinate. It's very easy to procrastinate. That was quite literally me wanting to just put things off, because there's just so much and it's disorganized and it's all in your head and it's not organized. So therefore you just want to sit down, eat potato chips, eat some crisps, and watch Netflix and avoid everything that's going on in here. But you can't avoid it. You can't avoid it for very long. You can avoid it for 1, 2, 3 days, but actually, how about we just do the work and get ourselves organized mentally, physically, and emotionally, and feel better for it. So I hope this video has been helpful. I'm interested to know what you guys do when you feel overwhelmed. What are some of the tips, the tricks, the techniques that help you feeling unstuck, feeling feeling less overwhelmed and leave you feeling refreshed and better for it. We're here to help each other. So leave a comment below. What are the things that help you feeling less overwhelmed, that help you feeling refreshed and rejuvenated? And let's share with each other. I've shared with you my 4 tips that help me. So yeah, this is a journey and not a sprint. You don't have to arrive to your destination tomorrow. You can get there step by step by step, but you and your body are important. Therefore, you need to put in the work so that you don't feel overwhelmed, you don't feel anxious, and actually just one day at a time. My mum always says this to me: one day at a time. Take things one day at a time and you will get there. The race, it's a marathon and not a sprint. You will get there. See you in my next video.